There are indeed some indications that the name of Atlantis and its inhabitants, the Atlanteans, was used to describe the people of Troy. In 1776, Jacob Bryant published a six-volume encyclopedia entitled Analysis of Ancient Mythology. Bryant, an expert of Homeric Troy, derived the Trojans from Meropians, whom he described as people of great ingenuity and pride who claimed to be the descendants of the earth-born giant brood. Ooh, interesting. These Meropians
So
or
we've got more giants.
yeah, these Meropians or Meropida are also named Atlanteans, the supposed offspring of Atlas. Oh, okay. The deity Atlas, who was supposedly, if you remember from mythology, he was holding the whole world on his shoulder, right? So
Yeah.
funny how actually this full meaning finds its fulfillment in Christ, because Jesus came to bear the sins of the world, and you see Atlas carrying the planet. Okay. The Trojans were also of this family, and the poet speaking of the foundations of Troy mentioned it as a city of the Meropes. Their history is comprised in that of Dardanus, the founder of Ilium or Troy. So the common opinion is that the city was built by Ilus, the son of Dardanus, who must consequently have been of the same family, a Merop Atlantean. According to Bryant, these Merop Atlanteans settle in the far west as well as in the far east. Thus, we find that whether we inquire in Mauritania or at the Indus, the same names occur. Such traditional
Hmm.
knowledge of Atlanteans west and east of Egypt may have contributed to the confusion of directions in the same story. Bryant arrives at the conclusion that the people of Troy, the Dardanians, were Atlanteans, being the reputed children of Electra. If this was indeed a very ancient name for the Trojans, it would not be surprising to find it used in Egypt, the native land of the Atlantis legend, because the Egyptian had a tendency to apply outdated names to new populations occupying the same area. Okay, I
Hmm.
love this historical context. The subsequent discussion will show that both the Trojans and the Atlanteans were extremely skilled in the sciences, as Brian says, and that they both claimed to be allied to the gods and heroes. Atlantis was governed by a confederation of kings like the Achaean realm. They held sway, quote unquote, over
Hmm.
all of the straits, all parts of the continent and parts of the continent, but also they ruled over a much larger territory, Europe as far as Tyrrhenia and Libya as far as Egypt. The ancient meaning of these geographical names is not well established, as they may have been mistranslated too. Nevertheless, if Atlantis was near the Straits of Gibraltar, its territorial influence in Europe would have ended in the Tyrrhenian Sea without overlapping with the Greek dominion. In both Iliad and Atlantis, the Greeks ascended as the mighty host, and although they were at times deserted by all the others, they overthrew the opponent and gained a magnificent victory. But at a later time, there occurred earthquakes and floods, and one grievous day, a night befell them when the whole body of your warriors was swallowed by the earth. This is a quotation. And the island of Atlantis, in like manner, was swallowed by the sea and vanished.
Hmm.
Wherefore also the ocean at that spot has now become impassable and unsearchable, being blocked by the shoal mud. I read this like a couple of hours ago by a different author, which, well, actually by Plato himself, which the island created as it settled down. Okay, so I think here that Zanger is quoting Plato, because I have quotations, but I have the name. Okay. Conventional wisdom believes that Atlantis was destroyed by a single catastrophe and subsequently drowned in the sea. Plato's original text, however, speaks of the ancient Greek civilization, the whole of your warriors, being swallowed by the earth during earthquakes and floods. This tragedy occurred during the single grievous day and night after the warriors had returned from their successful combat at Atlantis. The earthquake at Tyrrhenes coincides with a later period between 1250 and 1200 BC. Hence, the destruction occurred only a few years or decades after the Trojan War. The earthquake was accompanied by a devastating flood, which literally swallowed up parts of the lower town. All these events, earthquakes, floods, and chronological boundary, coincide with the abrupt commencement of the Achaean decline. The natural catastrophes are clearly attributed to Greece, although Atlantis is said to have disappeared in like manner. Again, this statement corresponds to the events in the Argolid and the Troad, parts of the Tyrant's lower town, which were buried very rapidly during the flash flood, just as any Trojan building in the plain would have been buried by alluvium after the war.